Am I the asshole here for digging into my brother's girlfriend's past and telling him the results? My youngest brother, Adam, had a rough childhood to say the least. Our father passed away when he was under 10 from cancer. Our mother is likely bipolar, but definitely has narcissistic tendencies and is abusive. I'm older by a decade and did what I could when I could for him, but I basically failed to protect him and didn't understand what he needed. All that to say, his descent into alcoholism wasn't a surprise, it was expected. A couple of years ago, he had an incident that caused him to be hospitalized and began his recovery and sobriety. He's over 2 years clean now, largely due to the new relationship he started months after his incident with a kind-hearted and lovely woman. I'll call her Eve. He brought Eve over to meet us shortly after they met, and she's been a welcome part of our family. She makes gifts for my kids and treats. She's always fun to speak to, and her quirkiness fits in beautifully. As we got to know her, we've learned about how traumatic her life has been. They're kinda trauma bonded, but she's so understanding and empathetic. She told us about her twin who passed away in high school, how her siblings and parents loved him more and treated her badly as the survivor that was way less than. She also had another brother who passed away in war in Iraq. That was the golden child after her twin passed. She couldn't seem to gain her mother's approval or attention, and we bonded over those feelings of not being wanted or good enough. She told us she was originally from Scotland. Her father was a sheep farmer who moved to America to buy a cattle farm because of the cowboy movies, so she has dual citizenship. She also said because of this, she spoke 16 languages. She worked at a college and had multiple degrees too. Overall, she was incredibly nice, took good care of Adam, and seemed super well educated and proper. Sometimes she had a Scottish accent too because she'd been around her family. Then she started to tell us about her past relationships. 3 divorces. One was from a person who had gender reassignment surgery, the other passed away by his own hands, and the last had attempted to take her life, shot her, and then had ran from the cops to a ditch where he passed away. She showed my kids the scar. I felt like after 2 years of knowing her, she was a great fit. So last week when they had an argument, I tried to reassure Adam. I had to come over to talk, and he told me that she had lied to him about not speaking to a friend of hers anymore. Some guy who was apparently a popular guy in high school. She lied because she didn't want to believe that he wasn't a good guy because she's had so much bad luck with men. Adam was struggling to move past the lying, but wanted to work it out, and I support him in whatever he does. I talked to my husband about it, and he asked the most basic question. How does she have a high school popular kid here in town if she was raised in Oklahoma on a cattle farm? Honestly, I have PTSD, so my brain sometimes gets mixed up. I assumed I was wrong. It turned over and over in my head though for a couple of days. I finally caved while my husband played video games and began a casual search into her. I googled her name and her address came up. Then I realized her history of addresses were all in America, all going back pretty far. So I checked her parents, and their addresses went back in America to before she was born. I was so confused, I googled them, and I found recent obituaries of her grandparents on both sides. They are all from America, and they only mention 3 kids by her parents ever. Obituaries usually list preceded in death, and these do, but no grandkids in that list. No additional brothers of hers. Not only that, but she lived at the same address her whole life in Kansas. I looked it up on a map, and I found the high school nearby and searched the yearbook. I found her 12th grade, no twin. Okay, but he passed away. So I checked 9th grade, also no twin. The deeper I dug, the more proof of the lies. Only 2 marriages on record. Both still alive. One did change names from male in the marriage to female in the divorce, but that seems to be the only true thing she's ever said. It's absolutely shocking. Finally, my husband said that I had to tell Adam. I was against it, and then as the pile got larger, I said that it was an in-person conversation. He insisted that it needed to be done, so I put it all together into a document and I messaged Adam. I asked a few clarifying questions about the twin and the ex-husbands. I apologized and provided the information to him and hoped I was wrong. Within 10 minutes of sending it to him, he said that she admitted everything to him. He's absolutely lost now. 2 whole years, so many lies. I'm just baffled. Why? Like, if they ever got married, it would have unraveled so quickly. As it stands, she's been able to keep him away from her family by allowing them to disrespect their age gap. He's noticeably younger than her. She refused to go to an uncle's funeral earlier this year because she claimed he was a predator. I hate questioning that, but maybe she just didn't want Adam to find out that her uncle was born and raised in Kansas, not Scotland, and so was her dad. She was here with my kids, having them feel the bullet wound scar from an incident that never happened. There are no criminal records for either of the exes. There's none for her either, thankfully, but good lord. I wish I could put the cat back in the bag on this one. Why lie? And why didn't I check her background sooner? I literally check the kids that my kids date in high school to make sure their parents aren't on a registry or anything. I should have checked her much sooner. Now the life and family they were building is in ruins, and I'm terrified of him losing his sobriety. I'm feeling really guilty for looking it up and telling him too. I'm not sure I did the right thing because he's heartbroken. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, you didn't get sus when she said she spoke 16 languages? OP says, no, because she actually spoke something when asked to speak each language by my kids. I only know enough English, enough Spanish to ask where the bathroom and library is, and some sign language from when I was a kid. So, super rusty. Think alphabet, every cuss word, and thank you, basically. There are people who speak lots of languages, and again, she worked at a college where she had claimed to have gotten multiple degrees, so she could have taken language classes there. It didn't come off as lies or exaggeration. I'm generally very skeptical of everyone, but she's older than me and had worked there for many years. So it didn't seem like a stretch if she's got no kids and has had 25 plus years to do anything she wanted with her life. Another commenter says, she told us she was from Scotland. Not being funny, but how does having dual citizenship with the UK bestow upon her 16 languages? Did they plug her into the Matrix? She worked at a college and had multiple degrees too. Please be less gullible going forward. Life is full of bullshitters, but the beauty of them is they're easy to spot because they always go too far. 16 languages, multiple degrees that haven't turned into anything, 3 divorces? Who has the time? OP says, well, her degrees did turn into something. She worked at a college at the time, and when that job ended, she's now working as an engineer. If you work at a college, they let you take classes free or reduced. She probably has some of the degrees, and she could have taken the language classes. There's people famous here for learning lots of languages, and she called herself a polyglot. I have a friend who was learning Japanese with a tutor, and she talked about different tutors that she'd used and programs too. It seemed legit, but obviously everything she said did, and it was all lies. She's old enough to have been divorced 3 times as well. Seemed like tragically bad luck or poor judgment, but being raised by a narcissist with a traumatic childhood made me give her grace and assume that she was targeted for being too nice. I really want to argue that I'm not gullible, but I have to explain this to my oldest kid when they get back from a trip next week, and the only explanation is that I was incredibly gullible. My oldest kid is also super fond of this woman, and I know it's going to hurt. Look, OP. I am super gullible as well, so I can definitely relate with you. People will be incredibly sarcastic to my face. They will be incredibly sarcastic over text as well. They will say the most ridiculously fantastic things, and I will just eat it up and be like, wow, I don't want to challenge that. That sounds crazy that you achieved all of that and that that's all true. But even I, reading this from the start, was like, that's such bullshit. 16 languages. What is she, Xiaoma, New York City, that goddamn YouTuber that's like, white man goes to Chinese restaurant. You won't believe what happens next. Like, I know you can't verify it, but like, the more she adds to these stories, it just becomes incredibly fantastic. Every layer was just more and more unbelievable bullshit, and I'm so surprised everyone ate that shit up and was like, more please. This is so delicious. Every single one of you, besides your partner that picked up on that, every single one of you deserve a slap for being so gullible. And did you know if you look up right now, gullible is written on the ceiling? Trust me on that one. And now, onto the update. To catch up, brother's girlfriend made up a lot of lies, yada yada yada. When I posted, I had uncovered some of the lies and forwarded him the proof. She'd come clean immediately and taken him to visit her parents to explain it. She has untreated borderline personality disorder, apparently. My brother, who I called Adam for this, is a recovering alcoholic with a huge heart. He was absolutely determined to stay with her and not toss her aside for being human. Oh my god, no, don't say that. Please toss her aside. Please have some self-respect, Adam. He thought this was the righteous and noble thing to do, to not discard someone who is struggling or damaged in their time of need. No, guys, the poison I'm drinking is actually delicious. I'm gonna give the poison a second chance to see if it was just a once-off thing. My husband and I were determined to support him regardless of his choice because we love him. She told him she could never be around us again and she was scared of us. We assured him that we would never be rude to anyone he dated and that we were more than capable of being around her. I genuinely think when she realized that we weren't going to let her isolate him by pretending like she had a reason to fear us, it was over for her. It lasted only a week after our dinner with him, where we showed him unconditional support and reminded him that he was the victim repeatedly. The following week, she went out with friends to a bar. He asked where she went and with who, since this whole thing started because she was lying about not hanging out with some jerk that didn't respect my brother or their relationship. She said that she didn't have to show Adam anything to prove where she had been and that she can't heal like this. She expected to play the victim to him, as if him asking for accountability and transparency was him being controlling. Then he said that he can't be in a relationship where he can't trust someone. She was clearly hiding who she was with and where she was. In response, she gave him 30 days to move out. So, this weekend, we're moving him into his own place. He's, of course, still reeling from the whiplash of whatever the heck the last 2 years of lies have been with a woman that he thought he would marry. He has a strong support system, though, and he's absolutely going to get through this. He's even quitting smoking during this, which I couldn't imagine trying to do in this level of chaos, but he's determined. Thank you everyone for the support and advice. Please don't be gullible like we were, and if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. In the comments, I'm so curious. What were the 16 languages? OP says, well, she claimed to be dual citizen with Scotland, so she said all the languages from that area, as well as obscure ones. The ones I remember were like Scottish, Gaelic, German. Obviously not Spanish because we would have immediately caught that lie. She must have memorized phrases in each language when asked, as she would recite things that sounded like they were appropriate. It was just like a random factoid that she would say, and the kids would ask her to say a cuss word or something, and we'd move on in the conversation. I never got a complete list, but I absolutely should have asked for it. Another commenter says, just in case you didn't know, you fucking rock. The way you are your brother's keeper and have his back 100% is great. She knew she wasn't going to be able to keep playing him with you in his corner, and that's why her ass had to go. Congratulations on getting this dirtbag, see you next Tuesday, out of your brother's life. OP says, thank you for saying this. I felt like such an asshole for snooping, and even more so when it started to unravel her lies. He is genuinely heartbroken, and he didn't deserve this, so I'm working hard to make sure that he has everything he needs for this move, and he doesn't have to stress as much. I'm really glad that he's taking it as well as he is, and that he doesn't seem to hate me for it. Sometimes delivering the bad news makes you a part of the problem because people can't separate the hurt. I just want him to be okay. Terurial says, the fact that she immediately pivoted to isolating OP's brother from his support network as soon as she was caught is terrifying. She then tried to manipulate circumstances even further by painting him as controlling and insecure. She knew precisely what she was doing all along. I've known chronic liars in the past. They don't really have a reason or a plan for their lies. They just say whatever they need to say in the moment to get what they want. I've also known compulsive liars, and an interesting trait I've found is that they're often surprisingly, spontaneously generous. My guess is that it stems from the same subconscious drive to win, manipulate, and influence people, which is a horrible perspective to put on someone's generosity, but there's definitely a pattern. I've only met one, but it was interesting. All his lies had a cruel streak behind them. He would get scary if challenged. Not violent, just cold and empty. Like he was plotting on how to make you pay for it. Yeah, and I've met people like that in my life before, and they are no longer in my life because who actually has time for bullshit like that? Yes, it is scary how fast she pivoted to the deepest depths of abusive, controlling relationship. Stuff that we see on here more than enough. And it's once again a reminder to, refresh yourself on these things. Get a good grip on the patterns that abusive, narcissistic, manipulative people like her, like many others, use, so that you're not manipulated by them and blame yourself for actions that are clearly unhealthy and will not end well for whoever it is that's being manipulated. Because OP was already fooled once with their gullibility, it would be so easy for them not to be able to support their brother if she also wasn't able to play the game and show the brother that she was supportive and genuine, not this freaky, controlling monster that the girlfriend was making OP out to be. Again, I'm reminded of that story that really breaks my heart, and I hope it's fake, but it was OP's daughter going out to college and getting groomed by this man like 20 years older than her, and then they get engaged and they have a kid on the way, and there's nothing that OP and the mum can do because they weren't able to break their child free from this much older man. It's situations like that where I'm like, I wish people had more resources in order to tackle these problems so that they themselves or the people closest to them that mean so much to them don't get caught in the lies and bullshit of those that wish to do them harm. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the update, OP. Our next post is by user Infinite Series, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole here for not letting my fiance's best friend live with us anymore, leading to the end of our 5-year relationship? Hi, I'm currently going through a breakup with my fiance, and I need input from strangers. My friends have been validating a lot of my feelings, but I feel like that could be bias. For some context, I'm 26 male, she is 23 female, we'll call her Kate. We've been together for just under 5 years, engaged for almost 2. I proposed on our anniversary. Anyway, this time last year we moved into a rental property that my parents own with her best friend. We'll call her May, female 27. For the 18 months leading up to this job, I had worked law enforcement. That job 100% made me realize that you can't change the system from within, and made me fully ACAB. I was injured a few times and also dealt with some close calls and some really heavy things. Even though I knew I should have been talking to a psychologist about these things during my time, I kept neglecting my mental health until I broke down. I got injured again, couldn't stop smoking, and I quit the job. I was in denial about my PTSD, and I kept trying to push past it and get a different job in security. I couldn't do this, and the feeling of failure combined with being terrified of everyone around me outside, I struggled to find the motivation to find another job or do anything. I struggled going to the shops for some time. During this time, me and May were always around each other and butting heads. Shortly after we moved in, we're setting up rooms. I asked her to not touch some 3D printed D&D models that I had made and painted due to some breaking in transport and me not wanting to risk more damage. She ended up moving all of them whilst setting up shelves and even unboxed ones that I didn't want unboxed. I told her that I'd specifically asked her not to touch them, and it upset me when she did. Her response was, I needed to unbox stuff and put it on shelves before the party. We had a housewarming coming up. I told her that she could have done that without touching them. She yelled, "They wouldn't have been touched if you had done it yourself." When I talked to my fiancé about this, she took May's side. This established a pattern. May would do something that crossed a boundary, and she would yell at that. I also do things which crossed her boundaries, and I did try to apologize and explain that I didn't understand that had been an issue, and clear communication would help me understand in the future. A few months go by. I am terrified of May. Every time I'm around her, my heart is pounding. I'm looking for weapons, my body is reacting to her as a threat. And I, unfortunately, responded by being angry. I felt like my fiancé wasn't doing anything to make the house feel welcome to me. I begged her to talk to May, and she said she did, but that I needed to apologize first and show that I can change. Eventually in January, it reached a point where May would clean a small section of our patio and sit and smoke. We would all sit and smoke together. She would only clean the section that she sat. That area was where I sat most of the time when she wasn't around. One week, she got angry when I left my stuff in her spot, and a different day, I didn't immediately stop smoking and move over for her. I told her it was a communal area, and she didn't own that spot. The next day, I came home and she was building a couch in that area. I told my fiancé that it seemed like a petty attempt to take ownership of this space. My fiancé dismissed that, but also said that I wouldn't be able to sit on it due to the weight rating of it. I tried to overlook it, but I asked my fiancé to bring up moving it, because at this point, I was too scared to talk to May and was avoiding her. My fiancé refused for a while, and then did, and said the couch stayed, and started telling me to suck it up. Her actual words. This led to us arguing, and me picking the couch up over our heads and moving it to the other side of the table. At this point, May said they were moving out. I said it wasn't going to work with us together in the house. My fiancé and May spent the next 6 months just telling me to stop being angry and apologize, and that everything was my fault. I had felt so ashamed for this entire year that I didn't tell my friends any of this until this past week. I was constantly sent to the bedroom when May was around, though she wasn't there every day. It felt like I wasn't welcome in the house. When I asked when May was moving out, I was told she wasn't, then she was, and this kept happening. I stayed scared of May, and then my fiancé began screaming at and berating me for not having empathy, for not loving her or caring about her. I yelled too, but I also began to feel hatred by her, and as it went on, I just wanted to do anything to keep her happy. I apologized and was yelled at by May. This happened 3 times in a row, so I gave up. I didn't care about May anymore. She destroyed the friendship that we had. I felt so unsafe I wanted her out of my life. But I could never ask my fiancé to give up her friendship. I just didn't want her in the house. I accused my fiancé of having an emotional affair. She denied anything, but also told me May thought she has been in love with Kate, but talked it through with a psychologist, and she just loves her like a sister. This struck me as weird, and a lot of my friends are calling it manipulative. But last week we hit a point. Kate had gone off and spent the night where May has been staying and told me she was staying at 10:30 p.m. She gave May $1,000 recently to fix their car. I finally talked to some friends about everything. They made me feel validated in my fear, my suspicions, and just didn't make me feel crazy anymore. I had been conflicted with how I felt. I knew I was wrong to be angry, and I was sorry for my actions, and I tried to make up from them, but when I asked for the same, I got yelled at for asking. It felt like I was being told that May can act however she wants, and Kate will defend her, but if I step a toe out of line, I will be told off. I felt like a third in my own engagement. Please let me know if you think I'm the asshole or not the asshole. I'll try and provide any additional information if possible. Edit. I just found out that Kate has been lying to me for a few weeks about a mutual friend of ours, one of my best friends. Kate told me this friend thought that I had changed and was no longer the person I was and didn't want me in her life. Due to this, I didn't reach out to them after the break until this morning. I asked how I had changed and why they didn't want me as a friend. She then denied not wanting me as a friend, told me she still loves me and wants me in her life. We've begun making plans to catch up and talk this weekend. This has made me realize that I well and truly have been manipulated and lied to, and that I'm not going crazy and losing everyone and everything. I don't know how long this has been happening, whether it's the full 5 years, or just since May has been this entwined within our relationship. In the comments, quote, I felt like a third in my own engagement. Yep, not the asshole. Time to move on and stop supplementing fiancé and May's lifestyle. OP says, honestly, thank you so much for saying this. I started to cry because I felt like I was going mad trying to say everything. This went from me trying to get perspective to letting my feelings out, and I thought it might be incoherent rambling. Someone else says, not the asshole. I strongly suggest that you have a witness with you every time you interact with either of them from now on. I guarantee they know exactly how they're triggering your anxiety and likely PTSD, and are doing so intentionally because they know they can easily manipulate you and situations once you're triggered. It genuinely isn't safe for you emotionally to be around them alone. OP says, thank you for the advice. I was planning on trying to have a friend around for dividing assets. Someone else asks, did you ever get treatment for PTSD? Did Kate keep May around because she felt unsafe because of your untreated mental health issues? OP says, I did get treatment, and in the past 6 months, she did start feeling unsafe. I do need to keep going with therapy to deal with my issues. We had lived together for most of our relationship without any major issues. Also, at one point, I was very suicidal. My psychologist told my fiancé that I should be placed under a 72-hour hold. She didn't want me to go, so I didn't. When asked, how were the bills split between OP and Kate? OP says, bills are currently mostly 50-50 between me and Kate. May has always paid a lower rent. We agreed $150 before we moved in, and then almost immediately, she said she could only pay $100 a week until she got a job. She would then get a job, keep paying $100, and when I said I wasn't going to keep paying a third of her rent, Kate started paying instead. May also never paid more than a quarter of any bill. Whilst in law enforcement, I was covering about 60 to 70% of bills when it was just me and Kate. I was okay with that because I was making close to double what she did. Man, this is just another gigantic mess, isn't it? I wish I had everyone else's perspectives in this one because it does feel a little bit skewed, in that I believe OP is telling the truth. I believe that his fiancé is having some weird enmeshment with May, that they are working against him, yes. But I'd like to get their side of the story and see what they have to say to defend themselves. How do they view what they're doing in this situation? And from OP's perspective, do they think that they are good, fun people to be around and they're not taking advantage of him? I feel bad for OP. This really seems like a no-win situation for OP. I don't have the answers, but I mean the title is, am I the asshole for not letting my fiancé's best friend live with us anymore, leading to the end of our 5-year relationship? Given all that's said and done, no, not the asshole. I guess it is already over. At this point, what can you really do besides start again and try to lead a life without dickheads like these in it? And now, on to the update. Some people asked for an update, and I have a few good and a few bad things to share. Brief recap, my fiancée Kate and I of almost 5 years broke up a month ago after moving into a house with her best friend. I was suffering from PTSD and left my job in law enforcement. I had set some boundaries with May, and she kept crossing them. She would also get angry, yell at me, and get in my face, and Kate would always dismiss these outbursts. So to the update, I stayed at my parents' house for a week. After returning, I didn't know if Kate would be there or not. She wasn't. She took the cat and a few items of clothing and all our sheets and pillows. I reached out, asking if she wanted to talk about things and if she was working that Wednesday because we could sit down and discuss who gets what and her moving out. She had threatened to take all of the furniture during the breakup, so I wanted to sit down and actually divide the things that we had bought together between us. She said she didn't want to meet and that she asked for my roster to collect her stuff when I'm not there. Because of her threatening to take the bed and everything else, I said I didn't want her in the house without me and that I would change the locks. She eventually said that she wanted to do it via text, but I told her that it should be in person. There's a lot of things in a lot of random places which actually need to be sorted through. She refused. I then found out a few days later from my brother that she had messaged my parents, telling them that I'd turned off all of her fish tanks and wasn't letting her in to do anything to them. I was more than happy for her to come over whilst I was there. I just didn't trust her after finding out about a lot of her lies about my friends hating me. My parents called me, and the four of us spoke. My brother confirmed the tanks were all on and were clean. My parents told me that she had hired a moving crew for Tuesday to get all of her stuff. My parents own the house we live in. I put a lock on the bedroom door and changed all the locks in the house. I told her that Tuesday didn't work for me, but Wednesday would work. She refused and said she was coming, so I sent the list of things that she wasn't to take, and she insisted on taking the entire bedroom set. I told my manager about what was happening. She knew about the breakup. I broke down at work the next day and told her. She was so understanding and actually helped a lot, and I'm so thankful for her. On Tuesday, they came just before I left for work. I called my brother, and he started coming towards the house. I had moved all of Kate and May's belongings outside that I could find and move. I had a friend help me with May's bed. My brother arrived after I left and told me that they were inside the house. I told my manager, who agreed to let me leave early when the second staff started, which was in 5 hours. My brother planted himself on the sofa and kept an eye on the bedroom and kept me updated. When I arrived, they had gutted most of the house of all of their stuff, but also a few of my items. I found more out after it was over, but she took one of my consoles and cables to my other so that I couldn't use it. They didn't get in the bedroom or get the couch at least. I later found out that they stole my cookbooks, the rice and flour, and a few other weird things. However, not long after I decided to try and put myself back out there and just try and have some fun, casual dates until I'm ready for something long-term. I quickly realized it wasn't for me anymore and I wanted something serious. But I met someone and we immediately clicked. We were sending these huge paragraphs, info-dumping on each other, and we shared a lot of the same interests and passions. We've gone out a few times now, and I really like them, and I really hope this works out well. I'm taking it slow though. In the comments, it doesn't sound like you're taking anything slowly. It sounds like you're trauma bonding or whatever the kids call it. In any case, best of luck with everything, and I hope you're feeling okay and getting the help you need. OP says, and they're downvoted for this one, I've trauma bonded with someone before. This isn't it. I've also been seeing a psychologist who is aware of everything. We're working on helping me recognize red flags in relationships, and it is helping. Someone else says, I have PTSD, military, and the mind slams are really hard to manage. I understand why you spiraled, as you couldn't properly rationalize the abuse that Kate and May were throwing at you, nor could you process it. It became part and parcel of your trauma, just another layer being added. It does get better, as I hope your psychologist is helping you see, and when others begin to cause problems that start to trigger you, you'll have new tools to stop them short. Take care, and best wishes to you. OP says, you actually summed it up perfectly here. I hadn't even thought of it that way. My psychologist has been helping. After the breakup, I did feel a lot of anxiety leave, but I know I've developed new ones. Thank you so much. On OP shouldn't have let Kate into the house. OP says, I didn't. The doors were locked. She came in through a window and unlocked everything from the inside. My brother arrived and texted me that they were inside. I couldn't stop her retrieving her property. It would be theft. So it was placed in the garage with the exception of boxes that I had yet to sort through to gather my belongings from. I told them not to enter the house in person and via message. Someone else says, you broke up your engagement a month ago? Perhaps lay off the dating and stay single and focus on your mental health and well-being. OP says, my biggest issue was a lack of safety in my home. In the past month, I have regained that safety. We've been on 3 dates in the past week and a half for a few hours each time. We're both pretty busy and won't see each other for a bit, but we text and call. Not ready for a serious relationship because I need to work on myself and they are understanding of that. I'm also talking with a psychologist who is giving me some good tools and mechanisms to recognize any abuse signs. All that trauma and 1 month post-breakup already dating someone serious? Yeah, that'll go well. I've known a few people who just, for whatever reason, refused to be alone for significant portions of time, which led to a lot of shitty relationships. This goes for friendships as well. When they're that desperate to not be alone, lowering their standards becomes all they can do to maintain companionship. They aren't willing to be alone, nor are they willing to be able to put in the work to fix themselves. They hemorrhage quality people until anyone will suffice. I feel like we're missing a big piece of the puzzle on this one. You can feel that there's stuff that he's riding around, probably because it makes him look bad. I don't know if May and Kate are as terrible as he says, but I don't believe he is as innocent as he is claiming. Yeah, I skimmed and thought he was going to get slammed in the comments. Seems like there's a lot of shit that he said he would do and didn't. Unpacking, etc., and then not tidying and leaving his shit in areas that the roommate had tidied. Yeah, he acknowledges his anger issues, boundary crossing, with no details. Did he use her cups or did he scream in her face? We don't know. And that his girlfriend felt unsafe. I felt pretty sorry for him from his account, but I also suspect that I would have had a very combative relationship with him too in that situation. And that's why it's hard to judge situations like these, because it feels incredibly one-sided because a lot of people refuse to be transparent or are unable to be completely transparent because the way they're experiencing these situations are completely molded by how their brain wants to be perceived. And maybe they'll do things and just completely forget that they've done those things. And that will never in a million years make it into the text post. And that's why I said I want to know the other people's stories in this one, because this seems too good to be true. He acknowledges his faults, but he kind of skims over those faults. He kind of downplays what he did in this situation a little bit and overplays just how bad those two were. And again, I don't doubt that those two were terrible people. They were working together against him. They were conspiring. They have the majority of the blame in this situation. What they did was unforgivable. Breaking into the house through a window, taking his shit, yeah, that's pretty bad. I don't like that. I'd like to know why they think they can get away with all of this. I'd like to know why they were treating him that way. Two sides to every story. We get OP's side. So, he's not as bad. It seems like he does have some blame. I don't think that relationship is going to go the way that he thinks it will. Good luck to him. And thank you for the story, OP. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.